housing team. We have accomplished a great deal in our 5 years. But let me tell you a little bit about what we have accomplished, and we would like to here today and have we had a survey. We had a single-story survey of housing in the city. We had put a home share box in the Global Center so that people who might want to share their homes could indicate that, and we could match people up. We are currently updating a survey of all housing that is appropriate for seniors in the city of Thousand Oaks. I want to make one quick comment about what we discovered on the Boomer survey. 50% of those surveyed out of the 300 said yes, they thought they would have enough money for their housing when they retired. More than 50% said no, or they were not sure that they would have sufficient funds for housing when they retired. This is a key finding, and I leave that for you for thought. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. All right, next up, Nancy Knudsen. Here she is.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Nancy Knudsen. I work for Buena Vista Home Health and Hospice, and I'm just here today to invite everybody to our 9th annual Butterfly Release. It is a remembrance ceremony. It's touching. It's beautiful. We are going to release 1,000 monarchs this year, and a lot of good heart work goes on here. So it's July 12th. I have some information over here on the table, right here in Triumphal Canyon Park. And if you have a loved one or loved ones that you would like to go and just remember them fondly, join us, release a butterfly. And after we celebrate life with the butterflies, then we do fun things for the kids. We have ice cream trucks, we have butterfly face painting, and different activities for the kids. It's July 12th at 10 a.m., short and sweet, so I hope to see you all there. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it is a beautiful spectacle, seeing all these butterflies just take off around here in the Caneo. Thank you, Nancy. Next, we have Jane Messier. Come on up here, Mighty Mite.
Good afternoon. I've been told I have 3 entire minutes to talk, but I'll try to make it shorter. I specialize in short, you know. I'm on the Transportation Committee and have been for several years. I'm here to push our 3rd transportation workshop at the Global Center. It'll be July 23rd. And I thought from 12:30 to 2. And here's what happens. Nobody's really explained this. What we do in the workshop is a first presentation, about 12 minutes long, is done by the MMP agency. Those are the folks that go out and teach people, show people how to use public transportation, as well as dial-a-ride. So that's the first few minutes of the presentation. Then we hear from someone who is a user of public transportation and has been through the travel training. Oh, that would be me. Yes. And so I speak a little bit about my adventures, and I have had several. And the last part is done by a staff member of the Transportation Department of the City of Thousand Oaks. Most people don't know that we have transportation at all, and that it's farmed out. It's contracted out to a private company. So after that, we take a short break. Then the A-list gets on a special bus that goes in front of the senior center, Global Center, and takes people around a portion of the green route, which is the one that comes to the Teen Senior Center and Library. It's only a portion. We take them to the Transportation Center, which is a marvelous facility, very clean, very safe. And in my travels, nobody else in Ventura County has anything like that. So, and then we go, that is a major hub where 3 of the 4 Thousand Oaks buses connect up, as well as the Vista buses, which go in different directions up to Ventura and points in between over to Moore Park and Simi. And also the LA Metro bus stops there and ends there, and you can go all the way down to Woodland Hills on that bus for the bargain basement price of 25 cents for seniors. If you go between the hours of 9 and 3. There's so much, and then we have a Q&A, and then you're back at the Global Center by 2. So that's pretty much what goes on. And I am very impressed with the MMP people. Say the questions that people raise when they come to these events are very, very good questions, and also on the bus and at the transportation center. So it's a smart group of people that are getting on board. Okay, I think my 3 minutes of fame are up, so I'll hope to see you on the 23rd. Bye.
Thank you again, Jane. Jane, what was the date on that again? Just to
July 23rd, 12:30.
23rd, okay. Well, it's appropriate during this time of year with all graduates that we have a couple of alumni come back and talk to us. The first alumnus is Mel Silverberg. What do you got on your mind today, Mel?
Well, it looks like I picked the right program at the right time. It's all about timing because I'd like to address a serious problem. Good afternoon, commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I want to highlight a growing problem in the city and enlist the Commission's support and advocacy in addressing this issue in your 2014-2015 session. Recent opposition to building proposed affordable senior housing and assisted living facilities is leading to a major crisis in the city, where the 60-plus population is projected to grow rapidly to about 50% over the next 10 to 15 years. Seniors want to age in place for as long as they can, but what happens when they need to move? Where should they go? They would like to stay in TO, where they have friends and family and have lived for many years. Is our motto, get out of town? Now a few words about assisted living in TO. The developer of a proposed assisted living facility on Hillcrest, after over a year of community outreach, including accommodating design changes to change the footprint of the facility, the local vocals won and the developer withdrew his project. The project never went before the Planning Commission or the City Council. Was this a decision fought on the street? Mob rule? Whatever happened to the so-called due process? Now a developer is proposing an assisted living facility north of Hillcrest on McLeod. The letters to the editors already started to appear. The fears and myths surrounding these projects have one thing in common. They are all wrong for the same reasons. There are no facts to support the reasons for their opposition. Such planning must not continue. The City Community Development Department and Planning Commission and the City Council need to show some leadership and courage. Either produce a list of potential candidate sites for senior housing, retirement communities, or health-related housing for prospective developers, or tell developers Thousand Oaks is not viable for your project, saving them time and investment expense. A developer could easily spend $1 million or more in design and planning work before approval. They can't afford to be left hanging. It isn't fair to the developers or to the citizens of our fair city. This is the Commission's fight. Our seniors depend on your advocacy. You have a master plan. You have a housing committee. You just heard from Elise Klessman, who's put an awful lot of work into this and has done it in the proper way. And the esteem of advocates, you have the esteem of advocates in Ventura County and beyond. You guys are on the top. You need to have a seat at the table, inform the community conversation. This issue can't wait till 2064. The future is now. Let it be said that 2014-2015 was the Commission's finest hour. In the words of Robert Frost, choose the road less traveled by, and that will make all the difference. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you again, Mel. Always good to have you here. Now we've got Jim Cerdan, another alumnus, singular, yes.
Well, this is a significant day on the Council on Aging. Maybe not everyone knows that, but Commissioner Grimm has elected to retire, and I wanted to say a few words about that. I did say official last day because if I know you at all, David, you'll still be involved. You'll still have your hand in, and because, well, that's just the kind of dude you are. But I think the moment is at least appropriate for a couple of thanks. First off, I'd like, in behalf of the seniors of the community, I can't actually speak for them, but I will anyway, for those that have benefited from your years of dedicated service and leadership, we thank you. But I think I can speak for those of us who actually know you, those of us who have worked with you. We appreciate you, David. Your endless hours of dedication to the senior community, your leadership, your courage, and I guess most of all, we appreciate your loving and caring heart. You've touched us all. So I'd like to say in behalf of those of us who know and love you, thank you, sir.
Well, Jim, you taught me a lot. Excuse me, so thank you. All right, next person we have is Kay Seekrig. Did I pronounce that correctly? Thank you, Kay.
I was back there sitting down, so I feeling kind of nervous and wanting to pass out. I hate speaking in front of people. I just had some insights for Mr. Silverberg. I think we've kind of found ourselves at odds, and we really should join the same team. Some of the problems I see, one of the developer he just talked about, his name's Mohammed Asa. He wanted to build the assisted living facility where it was zoned single family homes, and it was directly across the street from my house, and doesn't follow the general plan of Thousand Oaks. The general plan is what makes Thousand Oaks a beautiful, wonderful place for us all to live. Right on Duesenberg is a properly zoned area for assisted living facilities or affordable housing facilities, and it has sat there unsold this whole time when many mansions came through wanting to build their huge thing in our neighborhood. And if we could just have the developers follow the zoning and use the lots that are properly zoned instead of asking for preferential treatment and to have something put inappropriate. The fact is, assisted living facilities do bring on noise. Mohammed Asa presented those facts to our city council, to our in the documents. He had documents from the fire department showing how noisy they are, how often sirens come into the area. And where I live, we all have dogs, and every time a siren goes by, the dogs howl, and I'm sure the city wouldn't approve a boarding kennel in the middle of our neighborhood. It gets pretty noisy, and we're very concerned about the rezoning of the space behind us. There's apartment buildings going up everywhere. There's not enough. It doesn't seem like there's much planning going on as far as the sidewalks, and the cars are parked end to end. There isn't enough place for them to park, and they come and they park in the neighborhood on Glenwood, and then the people there have no place to park their cars when they come home from work. And There's been concern recently because of the increase of traffic. There were just back-to-back 2 car accidents right out in front of my house. One blocked my driveway, and I couldn't leave, or my husband, who was out jogging, and my daughter was jogging, my husband was riding his bike. Neither one of them were allowed to come home because the power lines were down. The car knocked the power line down. With all this increase in traffic, and then the hypocrisy of being so concerned about what's a prediction when we have seniors at Ranch Mobile Home Park whose rents were raised unfairly. They were part of the affordable housing program that our city has. Their rents were raised unfairly, and a year later, they were able to, 9 different law firms offered to take their case pro bono. But because our city is hiding behind documents, they're fighting disclosure. They do not want us to know certain things about that deal, that rent increase. And I think it may have something to do with a specific plan, because in the newspaper 2009 article, it listed 2 mobile home parks that were seen as opportunities for the mixed use buildings to go on their property. I think they're just, as Mel said, being told to leave, get out, we don't want you anymore. 15 of them have died now while waiting for justice in court. I just watched last city council meeting, there was $557,000 worth of federal funds available for affordable housing, people who are in severe need for the money, and only $10,000 went to one family there in that mobile home park. All right. I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your comments. All right, that concludes our section on public comments. Item 5 is Vision 2064, and yeah, it is. It's just my voice now, and a website demo. So I've been very happy with working on this website as far as the information that's available through the database. So Francine is going to give us a quick run through on the website as well as the 2064 information. It'll be displayed up over here.
First, I want to thank everybody for attending the Vision 2064 meetings. We've had quite a turnout for all 5 of the meetings across town. Last night I was at the nonprofit meeting, and maybe some of the other commissioners attended others, and we can ask them about what they did. But on the homepage, one of the things you can do, if you can't attend a meeting between 6 and 8 o'clock on a Tuesday night, is we have a blog that you can go online and you can share with us your feelings about the different topics that we have. And it's called Mind Mixer. So if you go to www.toaks.org, on the very front page, you can see on the screen the scrolling bar. And if you just scroll to Mind Mixer, so welcome to the city, join the community, and you click on the link on the right, which is engagetomindmixer.com. And once you get there, you can just create an account. They just ask a couple of questions, and then you can go look at the topics, or you can look at the activity. So these are some of the topics that that people are blogging about. Would you be in favor of stricter regulations for water? That's one of the questions that they want an answer to, that they're looking for input on. What are some of your environmental concerns? How can we help local businesses? How can we improve the city's infrastructure? And what should we do to improve or promote tourism? How do we envision libraries and recreation and other municipal services? And what are your ideas for addressing community issues for the next 50 years, such as youth, seniors, or nonprofits? So you can go in and you can see what other people are. You can go to the activity and you can see what other people are talking about and who's online and who's responding, and some of the ideas that people are interested in doing. And some of them are pretty fascinating. You can either like them, so you can rate them, that, it's on the stars at the bottom, that it's okay, I like it a lot, or I love it. And then the more, obviously, if there's an idea up there that gets, hundreds of we really love this thing, it's going to attract a little more attention. So as city staff people, we go on and we read the ones that are appropriate for what we do. So for me, it would be anything about community services. So it's really worthwhile to go on and see what other people are talking about. We have quite a few people signed up already. But if you wanted to give more input on these Vision 2064 meetings, but you cannot attend, this is a really great way to do that. And as always, you can always send an email to your city council members or to city staff. We're all absolutely willing to look at those and to share those for you. And my business card is on the table over there. So the other thing that you can do to see some of the things that we're actually doing as part of our 50th anniversary is you can go to the 2064 page, which is toaks.org/50th or /2064. There's actually two different pages. And you can see some of the events and things that are being planned and coming up for that. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Francine. There is just a volume of information on this website. I mean, if nothing else, you can go and see what some of your neighbors are doing, see how they're involved. That didn't sound right, did it? Yeah. Okay. But, I mean, the idea is that there is information here that is to the well-being and the development of our community here. As seniors, we do have a special section for senior services that are certainly pertinent to a lot of things that are that we look for as seniors. Okay. All right. Thank you again, Francine. Now, the next section, item 6, is Liaison Reports. In addition to being an advisory body to City Council, the Council on Aging also appoints commissioners to act as liaisons to various organizations. We'll start off first with the Condos Senior and Volunteer Program, and the report will be given by Patty Ham.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. CSVP continues to do an incredible job in connecting over 1,200 senior volunteers with the local businesses and community in the Conejo Valley. Currently, I'd like to report that we are working on fundraising efforts to close that gap on the grant funds that we had lost. And last month in May, we had our first partnership bridge tournament where the bridge players at Global Adult Community Center all came together and joined the tournament. And we had about 75 of them come for a fundraising opportunity. And then we had the Conejo Players Theater fundraiser where we had 84 participants sign up and enjoy a night of wine and cheese and chocolate, and of course a performance by the Conejo Players Theater. So right now I'd like to put out there that we're looking for movers and shakers in the community who have fundraising experience and would love to come join the CSVP fundraising committee. And if you are interested, you can contact Rick Tanaka, the director of CSVP, at 381-2742.
That'll do it then? All right. Thank you, Patty. Yeah, I mean, I think we're seeing a lot of activity over in the Global Center. And
Well, that's for Global.
Yeah. And I do hope all of us are avail them of these different activities just to keep us stimulated. Every 2 years, a Council on Aging is required to appoint new or incumbent commissioners as representatives.
You still have the Global Center.
Oh, we are going to do the Global Center.
Yes.
You only did
I'm sorry.
CSVP, so the next item.
My apologies, man. I thought
I'm sorry, Dave. I was waiting for you to call the Global Center one.
All right. All right. The Global Adult Community Center and Global Director, Patty Ham, will provide that report as well.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to very excitingly tell you about an event that we pulled together in collaboration last month for the seniors. Last Wednesday was deemed the 21st annual National Senior Health and Fitness Day, and the National Recreation and Parks Association sponsored that, and they challenged us to come up with an event for seniors for the theme of Make a Move Towards Better Health. And in collaboration with Conejo Recreation and Park District, the recreation team of SAMP, the Coalition, our Council on Aging, and the Reserve at Thousand Oaks, and the Kiwanis of Thousand Oaks, we put together an incredible event where we had 55 seniors come and participate in a 2-hour period, nonstop, where we broke them up. First, we started with a little speech on fitness for their physical and mental wellness, and we ran off and we'd split them up into teams, and they played horseshoes, Wii bowling, miniature golf, table tennis, billiards, and then they did a 1K walk around the park. And then the culmination of that was a beautiful barbecue lunch given to us by cooked by the Kiwanis of Thousand Oaks. And it was a great event, great collaboration, and on behalf of everyone, I'd like to thank the Council on Aging for their support through the SAMP team members. And it was such a great success that we got such great feedback. I think we're going to do something again in the fall. They don't want to wait a whole year to do something like that again, they told us. The other thing, on that note of health and fitness, I wanted to let everyone know that every summer the Global Adult Community Center offers free water fitness classes to the senior community 50 and above. And this year it starts the week of June 16th. And on Mondays and Wednesdays from 12 to 1 at Thousand Oaks High School Pool, and Tuesdays and Thursdays at Newberry Park High School Pool, we'll be offering free water exercise classes. And that'll be a 8-week session, and it's a great opportunity for seniors to come out and enjoy some water and fun and some sun.
Very good. I'm glad to hear that program went so well.
Dave?
And Patty, go Kings. Oh.
May I ask a question? Patty, is the pool heated?
Well, it is, but I don't think it's heated for seniors to jump in and have it be like a spa bath. It's cold when you first go in, but as soon as you start moving, you forget about the cold and it warms up. So at first it's a little cold.
And will there be locker facilities there for people to lock up their belongings, or what? What do you do there?
I don't believe there are. You have to put your stuff on the deck. But we have recreation leaders who will go and lead those classes. So we'll make sure we have areas where valuables of are taken care of. So that's not a problem. Go Kings, Dave.
You know it. You know it. All right, thank you. All right, now we'll go back to this. I was a little premature, but this is regard to the Ventura County Area Aging Agency appointments. Off she goes. Yep. Every 2 years, the Council on Aging is required to appoint new or incumbent commissioners as representatives on the VC AAA Advisory Board. We are given 2 voting seats on this board. At this time, I would like to open the nominations for the VC AAA representatives. Marty.
I move that we appoint. I move that we appoint Nick Fotheringham and Nancy Healy as representatives to the VC AAA.
Now, I know Nancy's not here, but she's already said that she would do that. Nick, are you willing to accept the nomination?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You need I'll second that.
I was going to call her. Are there any comments? If not, nominations are closed. Do I hear a motion to accept the nominations?
I move we accept the nominations of Nancy Healy and Nick Fotheringham.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, you didn't see my lips move? All right, very good. Thank you. And Nancy, we won't go into what VCAAA is, but Nancy and Nick have been very potent members of that organization, and we're very proud of their activities. Commissioner reports. Let's see, what do we got? All right, we're going to have, under commissioner reports, an update on the status of the senior year, which is coming right upon us. Karen?
Thank you very much, Dave. The Senior of the Year event is tomorrow evening at the Global Center at 5:30. I don't know if there are still tickets left. Yes, there are. There are still tickets left. They are $6 at the desk at the Global Center. It's going to be a terrific, really terrific event. You know, I had a wonderful team, and we interviewed these folks, and I went home in such awe and amazement of the really wonderful work that the seniors do in the community, and such good hearts. And you want to be there tomorrow night, 5:30 at the Global Center. And I'd like to take just a moment, please, to thank the terrific businesses and organizations that have donated so generously, both to the event itself and also in the form of congratulatory gifts for each of the 8 nominees. Let me name them for you right now, and we thank them for their kindness. And that is the 805 Aging, Assisted Living Connections, Diamond Ground Products, the Oak Shopping Center, Los Robles Hospital, Paul Martin's American Grill, Sweet Arlene's, Comfort Keepers, The Reserve at Thousand Oaks, Conejo Valley YMCA, The Skin Spa, Julie B. of John of Italy, Hollywood Storage Center, Civic Arts Plaza Foundation, Judy Bumstead Photography, Stonefire Grill, which will be catering the event, UCLA, and the Conejo Players. We thank all of these wonderful, wonderful businesses and organizations who have given so generously to help make the event a very, very special time. We hope we see you all there tomorrow evening. Thank you, Dave.
Excellent. Boy, nice going, Karen and Francine, on getting such a widespread support for the senior of the year. That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Good job. Thank you, Annette, too. I know you were part of that. But thanks so much, folks. And we do certainly hope that some of you folks will come out and join us and just revel in what these folks have done with their activities. And maybe it might inspire you to go out and want to be a volunteer, too, because I think you all have seen where volunteering is good for you. It does do something to your spirits. It does do something to your attitude on life. So come out and get imbued with those kinds of feelings. Okay. Thank you. All right. We'll move on to item 8. This is a portion of our meeting where commissioners can provide information, comment, or announcements which no action by the commission will be taken. At this time, are there any other commissioner comments? Silence. Wow. I did want to bring out one announcement. It's personal, the idea. A good friend of ours passed away yesterday, Judy Thompson. You may or may not know of her, but she was active in a lot of different things. She worked at Amgen. She passed away from cancer, lung cancer. So just my best to you, Ron and Andy. We'll be seeing you soon. Okay. Guest speakers. Roberta, let me stop for a little bit and you take over as far as what's going to be happening. Just to reiterate what Francine said, we're precluded from taking questions at the end, but once the gavel drops, you can corner the various panelists and talk to them on individual. Take it away.
Thank you, Dave. Today's forum is titled Senior Housing Market Issues and Concerns. The topics to be addressed include older adults' desire to continue living at home, medical, family, and financial pressures, housing options, elder abuse, and financial opportunities and options for seniors. Our panelists today include, and we have a nice group up here, Helen Borland, Caneo Simi Moore Park Association of Realtors. Okay. How's that? Okay. Senior Real Estate Specialist. Debbie Lee, Area Sales Manager, Security One Lending. Kathleen O'Brien, Senior Deputy District Attorney, Elder Abuse, Ventura County. Douglas Tapkin, Executive Director, Area Housing Authority, Ventura County. Peter Greer, Moderator, Past President, Caneo Simi Moore Park Association of Realtors, and 2004 Realtor of the Year. And our leader today, Don Phillips, Chairperson, Equal Opportunity and Community Outreach Committee, Caneo Simi Moore Park Association of Realtors. Don?
There he is.
There you are.
Yes, I'm this tall person, Roberta.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're just...
Thanks, Roberta. Hello, my name is Don Phillips, and I'm the chairperson, as Roberta said, for the Equal Opportunity and Community Outreach Committee for the Caneo Simi Moore Park Association of Realtors. It is our pleasure to be part of the Council on Aging meeting. The forum today is entitled Senior Housing Market Issues and Concerns, and will provide you all with the latest information on housing opportunities affecting seniors in Thousand Oaks. The committee and the Council on Aging believe it is very important to raise awareness, because if we don't, who will? With the longevity we are enjoying comes responsibilities. Responsibilities for each of us to plan for the years ahead, and a responsibility toward those who came before us and created this beautiful place to live. At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce our moderator today, Peter Greer, past president, Caneo Simi Moore Park Association of Realtors, and 2004 Realtor of the Year. Peter.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, Don. And it is a real pleasure, and thank you all for inviting us to have this panel. Introductions have already been made, so you already know who we have on the panel. But we do want to start out, and I'd like to start out talking a little bit about what a senior housing specialist is. We have those as a designation, but maybe you can give us an idea of what actually a senior housing specialist is, if you wouldn't mind. And that's addressed to Helen, if you're...
It's a senior real estate specialist, and it is a realtor that's been in additional training that deals with the unique issues of the senior community. It deals with when they, if they decide to sell their home versus trying to stay in it with a reverse mortgage, and it's often a community issue regarding other people, the adult children, even grandchildren are involved, because sometimes it means that they're going to move into one of the adult children's homes. So a lot of these issues are involving people other than the homeowner themselves. And it can be quite unique and quite scary for a lot of people on both sides of that, whether it's the adult children or the homeowner themselves. There's certain issues where it's hard to get the house packed up. We have specialists that deal with that, and we kind of function as a referral person to coordinate other issues, whether it's attorneys with dealing with the trusts, whether it's attorneys dealing with trust issue, trust making the trust. It can also be with where they go, whether it's assisted living or board and care. So there's a lot of issues involved. It's not just a simple thing of selling their home.
Right, and that is the issue. You are somebody who could help, and with that designation, the whole family gets involved, everybody in the process.
Right, it's mostly being a guide to finding a lot of other resources.
Okay, thank you. Incidentally, there are no pre-made questions here, so if I err or they err, please understand. And I'm going to go to Doug Tapking. Doug, your position with the Area Housing Authority, do you run into a lot of issues and problems with housing for seniors?
Is that a question or a statement?
Your choice.
Okay. The answer is yes to both the question and the statement. Senior housing is in extremely short supply. And in the city of Thousand Oaks, we only have approximately 250 units at this particular point that is straight designated senior housing. That's a pretty small number for a community that's approaching 200,000 individuals at this time. It's one of those areas that we are vastly underserved in, and we need to deal with. Just a couple of quick statistics for you along this line. This is from AARP on a national level. We're finding that 2011, the baby boom generated reached what we used to know as retirement age. Okay, that's obviously for most of us in this room not true anymore. We're expecting about 8,000 boomers a day to turn 65 over the next 18 to 20 years. So 8,000 a day across the United States. There are 900,000 new seniors, as we call them now. In Thousand Oaks, where our demographics, we tend to be here for a while and we stay for a long time. We're becoming a older population. I know that's certainly true with me, and in the neighborhood, yes, Elise says yes all the way. Yeah, Peter, it's a real point. One of the things that we see constantly at the Housing Authority is what was alluded to earlier, the number of individuals who simply do not have enough money to age in place. And so many times their homes are larger, they don't need them what they had. They may still have a mortgage. Which is problem. Excuse me?
2 stories.
Yes, and I think that's a really good point. We have tended to build 2-story homes in the city of Thousand Oaks for obvious reasons. We wanted to make the best use of our lands and keep a great deal of our open space available. However, most senior citizens are desirous of having a flat in one form or another. They're getting really tired of the stairs and issues along that line. Elise alluded to a little earlier, Peter, the cards, the home sharing cards. And there are some in the back for people to see. The council has been given a copy of these. I would encourage senior citizens who are interested in sharing homes or getting into other programs a little quicker than waiting simply for some type of flat or subsidy or assistance. They should look into this also, because it's critical to their well-being to remain engaged. We see that obviously on this council here. We see that by the people that are coming out here. And our experience at the Housing Authority is that the more engaged our senior population is, that the healthier they are and the longer that they live.
Thank you. There are a lot of concerns having to do with housing, and I'm going to ask Debbie Lee the next question. Debbie, you're involved in lending. Do you see issues, problems on people's housing having to do with what loans are available and what they can do?
We do, mostly because we said it here, a lot of seniors want to age in place. But again, Doug alluded to it, is it appropriate? It's not just aging in place, is it appropriate aging in place? And so there are a lot of issues that we come up against. Sometimes there's deferred maintenance, and we specialize in reverse mortgages for seniors. That's 100% of what we do, and we are experts in that field. But we see in the county, and I think 12% of the population, the last time I looked, 12% of the population in Ventura County is seniors. And it's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So it is a concern. Property needs to be appropriate. 2 stories, maybe not so much unless there's a bedroom downstairs. I don't know if I answered your question, Peter, but
It's very well done. But I have another question for you. There's a lot of misconception about what you mean by a reverse mortgage. would you mind explaining what advantages are and possibly give us an idea of what people perceive that may be incorrect about a reverse mortgage?
Thank you for that. I appreciate that question. We consider it a new reverse mortgage. They have been around for a very long time. There's some misconceptions about in the olden days, when reverse mortgages were done originally, lenders would actually go on title with the borrowers, mom and dad. And when the mom and dad passed away, then the lender got the property. That's not such a good loan. And the other thing was that there were things called equity shares, where the lender got to participate in the future value of the property. Those are gone. They don't exist. These are FHA. Most of these are FHA insured loans, so they're backed by the government. It allows a senior who can't age in place appropriately because the house, it's appropriate, to tap into that captive equity and convert that captive equity to tax-free income and live in the house and not make a mortgage payment as long as this is their primary residence. When they move, sell, or pass away, that's when the loan becomes payable. So it really is about education. A reverse mortgage isn't for everybody, and I'd be the first to admit that. But there are a lot of people that really are eligible or should look at considering a reverse mortgage. The other option is, and I'm glad Helen is here, is selling a large house. If this large house is inappropriate, then sell the large house. All the bedrooms are upstairs, and I don't want to put the elevator on the staircase. Sell the large house, buy something smaller in hopefully a senior-friendly community, and sell the house, keep some of those proceeds, put some money down on a new house, move closer to kids, adult children, someplace that's more appropriate. So there is a lot of misconceptions. It's not a free ride. I always tell my clients a reverse mortgage is not a free ride. But it's education. And so people just need to, if they're considering a reverse mortgage, they need to think about it, get the facts, and then make that informed decision.
Great. Thank you very much. Kathleen O'Brien is with the District Attorney's Office, and she is actually Senior Deputy District Attorney for Elder Abuse in Ventura County. Please not to be confused with the Deputy Attorney for Real Estate Fraud, completely different. Kathleen, what do you see in any fraud or any abuses that are coming that might have to do with housing for seniors?
Well, first of all, thank you for letting me be here today. And what many of you may not realize is that in California, there are special penal code sections, special crimes that protect seniors. Seniors are a protected population. If a senior is abused physically or financially or neglected in any way, we use these particular code sections because we get a lot of special treatment. The cases move faster. They jump in front of all the other cases that are lined up to go before a judge. We also get higher penalties. A normal felony, a penalty could be 16 months, 2 or 3 years in prison. If you commit a crime against a senior, it's 2, 3, or 4 years. And as I listened here today, just in the few comments that were made, the first thing that jumped into my mind is the number of financial abuse cases that I have that stem from family members and caregivers living in the home, sharing the home, having access to your online bank account, your online passwords. They know where your checkbooks are. They know where your banking statements are and your credit cards. Now, that's not to say that this is going to happen to everyone, but that is a significant part of my caseload where elders have invited people into their home and then did not protect themselves from these people getting that information. And I will tell you, it is really, really tough, if not impossible, to prosecute someone who has been in a senior's home, who has used the senior's computer with the senior's password and got funds or transferred money. It's very, very difficult. So that's a big red flag when I started hearing about home sharing.
Okay, well, we'll address that to somebody else on whether that's covered. Doug?
No, I think I need to echo the comments over here. Home sharing is an at-risk program in many ways. We see, again, at the Area Housing Authority, caregivers for our senior citizens on a regular basis, and it's a double-edged sword. They're the best thing in the world, and they can be the worst thing in the world. If they start falling into this line that you were just discussing, it's a nightmare for everybody involved. Home sharing programs throughout the United States have been wildly successful and miserable failures. And it depends upon how it is dealt with and the participants that are participating in the program. To coin the phrase that we were talking over here, there is no free lunch. And you must, in fact, protect both parties that are involved on this, because otherwise it's the worst nightmare you'll ever run into. The other part that I think we started to talk about here is just simply the lack of both an affordable place and the number of units that people, whether they sell a home, whether they want to move into another unit, any of these. We have no vacancies. The Area Housing Authority is 100% occupied. Many Mansions is pretty much 100% occupied at this particular point. Projects, as we talked about a little bit earlier, for senior citizens, which historically have been wildly successful and received huge community support, have suddenly been beat down. Sometimes because of the locations, many times because of misinformation that's out there. But as we've heard again, this is a growing population. Our community needs to address this. We need to provide for more affordable rental senior apartments. Now, you can assign any number you want to the word affordable. It doesn't always mean low income, very low income, etc. But they need to be in a range where we don't have to worry about somebody all of a sudden falling off the cliff when it comes to financial resources, and they're not able to take care of themselves in that respect.
Doug, I have a question. You may not be able to answer it, but I know how involved you are in the community, and there is somebody back here in the corner who could probably answer. But what projects are upcoming in the city of Thousand Oaks that may be good for an affordable answer for seniors?
Maybe I'm going to defer to our planning commissioner here. There are several projects that are coming before the planning commission at this point that are rental related. They are apartments, there are some condos, etc. The Area Housing Authority and Many Mansions at this particular time does not have anything on the table for senior citizens. And a great deal of that has to do with simply location and funding. Funding being the key element at this particular point. Our private partners, our private developers in the community access a completely different resource, and those are market rate units. And they are coming before the Planning Commission, et cetera. There are many things that are in the works, not only in the city of Thousand Oaks, but in our surrounding neighborhood. Camarillo has some coming along, so does Moore Park, et cetera. So we're seeing some things, but not this year. They won't be open this year.
Okay, thank you. Helen, you're, in addition to being a consultant as a senior real estate specialist, you're a realtor. Do you see housing, the products, the housing and the resale, do you see many houses coming on the market that would be affordable? And if you're talking about somebody moving down from a larger house in the Conejo Valley where they could stay?
We do have a number of condominiums in Westlake and Thousand Oaks that are single-story. I don't think there's enough.
There you go.
I don't think there's enough of these.
Okay.
Because of the demand, the prices, of course, are going up. So I see it as a need, a definite need for either bedrooms on the first floor or single-story, or maybe some kind of a multifamily unit that would have elevators. We do have a little bit of product like that over near the Oaks Mall. But in general, there's not a lot of other units that I know of that have elevators.
That's very good. I think that, as you're in your capacity as a real estate agent, you probably see a lot more of the issues and problems that are going on with seniors being able to stay in the community, Would you care to comment on some other issues that maybe are in the back of your mind?
Well, I think a lot of them that are here would definitely like to stay here, but if they are not staying with family generally, depending on their financial situation, of course, then they have to kind of move out of the area or to areas that are just not what they're used to as far as either safety or security or just closeness to facilities. For the prime areas, especially in this area that is close to shopping, close to medical facilities, that's prime property. So that's, I think we could well have a lot of housing developed if it's multifamily, but also maybe keep in mind to put elevators in them instead of just stairways.
There's a planning commissioner who's probably taking notes, so that's a good thought. Debbie, I know your primary function is the reverse mortgage, but you're familiar with the loans in general. I think a lot of people don't understand what loans are, what the rates are, and the availability of loans presently out there, because many people bought their houses 30 years ago and it was a different market. Can you kind of update us on loans in general?
Well, as far as rates go, no, because I don't follow the conventional lending rates, so my apologies. Although I believe that they're still in the fours. They're between the 4s and 5s. But what we're seeing in conventional lending is seniors have a hard time qualifying for traditional mortgages. They're on a fixed income. They may have excellent credit. They have equity. They may even have a lot of assets. But when it comes to borrowing, lenders have tightened those reins and those requirements, and you still have to have the capacity to be able to make a payment. And a lot of seniors don't have, when they look at the numbers, the capacity's not there to make those payments. So we're seeing that. The other thing that we're seeing, and I see a tsunami coming, of homeowners, senior homeowners with home equity lines of credit. They got those home equity lines of credit maybe 10 years ago, and traditional HELOCs have a 10-year life. Those loans are becoming due and payable. So the lenders are saying, well, now you need to pay that line of credit back. Well, they've made interest-only payments for the last 10 years, and now the banks, the lenders, not just banks, but the lenders are fully amortizing those payments or renegotiating, and a lot of seniors no longer qualify. So they're going into foreclosure because of a HELOC, not because of a mortgage. So that, I've seen it. It's coming more and more.
Thank you. Kathleen, I know there's a real estate fraud unit, but do you ever see anything that would be considered senior abuse coming to you that may have to do with lending practices or misrepresentation of somebody who might want to try to help a senior somehow?
I wouldn't see the lending aspect, but what I have seen, unfortunately, a number of times is adult family members moving back into their parents' home because their times are very, very hard right now, and especially in the commercial market, people are in their 40s and 50s are losing their jobs, and they're coming back to mom and dad's house, which is paid for, and they've got a nest egg. And unfortunately, mom and dad have given them perhaps power of attorney over many of their financial decisions, even though mom and dad are in complete control of their mental faculties. They trust their children, and I have, unfortunately, some terrible cases where the children have taken the money out of the home for what they believe would be a good business, to start a business. It goes under, and pretty soon all of mom and dad's money equity is gone. Those are the kind of cases that I see where the elders are giving power of attorney over to others and then are taken advantage of. And one thing I want to make sure, if you ever do decide to do a power of attorney and give someone control over your finances or health care, make sure you go to an attorney and get counseled on that, and make sure in that power of attorney there is a clause that says the money is only to be used for the benefit of the elder. Many, many power of attorneys I've seen were not drafted by attorneys, did not have that clause, and it's very, very difficult to argue against them, using that money.
I almost want you to completely restate that statement again. I think there's a cautionary statement. Could you just sum it up again for us?
Certainly. If you decide to give power of attorney, that means giving the power over financial decisions to someone else, or decisions about your health care. Many times we see this to children, given to their adult children. Make sure you consult an attorney without the adult child. You consult the attorney by yourself, and that attorney addresses your needs and what's good for you. And in that power of attorney, there is a clause that says any and all monies taken out by the person with the power of attorney is only to be used for the benefit of the senior or the elder. And that way, should they use the money illegally, not for the benefit, we would be able to prosecute them.
I thank you. I appreciate your doing that. I think that's such an important part. I'm going to go back and ask Debbie a little bit more about this reverse mortgage, because I'm still kind of caught up on it a little bit. Debbie, can you give us a little more insight, a little more light about it? I mean, what's going to happen to me? I have $500,000 equity in my house. I don't have a significant income because I've been self-employed my whole life. What's going to happen with the house, the equity in the house?
So I'll give you the Reader's Digest condensed version. How's that?
Sounds good. Thank you.
So the FHA program allows a senior to tap into just a portion of the equity, not the entire amount. So for today's numbers, I typically say 50%. You need to be in a 50% equity position to be able to take advantage of a reverse mortgage. If there's an existing mortgage on the property, that lien has to be paid off first. In a lot of cases, for a lot of clients, simply eliminating a mortgage debt, while it may not give you any additional income, it gives you an additional it gives you cash flow. So if you've eliminated a mortgage payment, now I've got a little more money that I can spend on my meds, or I can take a trip, or I can do something else with. So remember I said earlier, there's no free ride. So FHA sets these limits, and they're the same for all lenders, of how much equity a senior can get. It's based on life expectancy and actuarial insurance tables. So the older a senior, the more equity they can tap into, they have access to. But I would just, we're going to throw out 50%. If for a 62-year-old, it's roughly 50%. That equity can be converted to monthly income. It can be taken in cash, or it can be put into a standby line of credit, so that in the event of an emergency, there's this little nest egg that can be pulled on. Remember, I said there's no free ride, so interest accrues on the balance that you owe. Nobody makes a payment. As long as the senior lives in the house, nobody makes a payment. But interest is accruing. Therefore, the balance is working in reverse of conventional financing. The balance is going up. Today, when I make my mortgage payment, I've got this much going to principal and this much going to interest, and in 30 years maybe my balance will be down, but it works the opposite in reverse. So they're negatively amortizing loans. It's not a dirty word, that's just the way the loan functions. The balance grows. When the senior moves, sells, or passes away, that's when the loan has to be paid back. The property doesn't have to be sold, but the loan has to be paid back. And in the life of the senior, while they're living in the house, we can't stress this enough, property taxes and insurance are still, and improvements are still the requirement. They still have to be paid by the senior. So you still have to be able to afford to pay your taxes and your homeowner's insurance. Does that help?
Yeah, yes, it really does. I have another question here for you, and I don't know how your side of the business works, but I am a union member. I do get periodically letters from my union telling me that they have reverse mortgages available. Do they do those loans through a lender like you, or are they doing them through pension fund? Do you have any idea?
I'm not sure. They may have a relationship with a broker that would maybe pay the union, a fee to do that? I don't know, Peter, though. I really don't know the answer.
So are the loans competitive with other people who do reverse loans? Should they consult more than one person, as I would advise somebody buying a house to consult more than one lender?
It doesn't hurt to shop. I think it's wisdom. You're not only educating yourself about the program, but yes, what are the prices? How are the loans priced? They are competitively priced. Some lenders are a little more expensive than others. Yes, shop around.
Helen, I'm going to talk to you just a little bit here because we're talking about using people's equity in their homes, and we did mention before about moving down to a smaller house or a one-story from a two-story and the available properties that are out there. Do you see it as a good idea to pull the equity out of a home by either selling it or refinancing it and buying down to a smaller house, thereby keeping both properties, or would you possibly advise against it? I'm drawing on your senior certification there, too. So,
well, first of all, I think they need to see their financial advisor for that. It all depends on their overall situation. I wouldn't want to give specific financial advice that way. If they're in a position to refinance or however they want to structure the purchase of another home that might be smaller and rent out the larger one, I tend to kind of discourage renting the home that you've lived in, especially if you've lived there a long time, because there's a lot of emotional issues connected to that home. I've had rental houses myself, and if the tenant messes it up, it's hard. But if you do it on a home that you've lived in, it's really hard. I don't know. I think I'd probably advise, if they can afford it, to buy something more suitable for a rental that is maybe not in top condition as their home might be, and make it a specific thing. But they have to coordinate this with their accountant to do the best way for the tax benefits and things like that.
My grown son is moving back in with us. I am so excited. It is a relocation. Oh, then I won't mention my mother-in-law. I am really, really looking forward to it. He's very successful. He has a consulting company, and I would like his checkbook. He can have mine because he does much better than me. But it's really good advice that it should be a caution taken. But I do want to, let's pretend my son isn't successful and he comes back, and I want to address this question to Kathleen. Precautionary measures that I should personally take that my son may be a ne'er-do-well, which he really isn't, but the advice of going to an attorney. Anything else I should?
There's several things, and we. If you're on my caseload, I hope none of you are on my caseload. I wish I didn't have a job, so that would mean no seniors are being abused or taken advantage of. But it is increasing exponentially, and unfortunately, the biggest offender is typically a middle-aged son who has moved back in with mom and dad and may have a substance abuse problem, or something like that. That's a big issue. Certainly, not handing out the passwords to your finances. Certainly, if you want some help with your finances, I suggest having two people you trust. Maybe one writes your checks, a different one checks your bank statements, and someone else maybe look at your credit card statements. Just not putting all of your eggs in one basket, so to speak, with one person. And, we love our children. We love them, no matter what they do, but it is so important to just do as much as you can to protect yourself, because, again, sometimes these adult children don't really mean to devastate your finances. Some do. Some just want mom and dad's money for trips and drugs or whatever. But some, as I indicated in the case I mentioned earlier, wanted to build a legitimate business, but it completely failed, and he wiped out his mom and dad. And his mom and dad had no idea that he had taken that money out because they had given him a power of attorney. So it's just anything you can think of to protect yourself. One comment I do have is if you have other people sharing your home, or if you have a caregiver going in to help in your own home or a friend's home, don't have your financial documents mailed to that address. Don't have you're going to get those credit card statements every single day that say you're pre-approved. Well, anybody can get that out of your mailbox, sign your name, and if they have access to your Social Security number, other type of personal information which someone sharing your home would have, they could take out 3 credit cards, max them out before you even know what hits you. So there's little different things like that you can do to protect yourself.
Thank you. My son's abuse is surfing and motorcycles, and I do both of them with him, so that's good. Going back to the mother-in-law, Doug, we're very fortunate, incidentally. We're very fortunate to live in this community and be able to speak our mind and a lot of other things, but I came here over 35 years ago and have really enjoyed the Conejo Valley and everything it's had to offer. I have lived on the same street in 2 different houses, could easily move to another home, but we like where we are. We love our neighbors. Unfortunately, my mother-in-law lives on the street in one of my rental properties, and I've been bugging Doug to find her another place to live. So I'm going to ask you the question.
Keep bugging.
My mother-in-law is a fixed. I'm not kicking her out of the house. She loves the garden, and it looks great. But, Doug, let's say I can't afford to keep her there. She's lived in the community now 16 years in one of my houses, and she needs a place to live. What would her process be to try to find housing through the Area Housing Authority within the Conejo?
A hope and a prayer. Oh, no. It's almost that bad right now, Peter. First off, there are papers like this that will be floating around. There'll be some on the back. This is a rental listing of affordable homes that we're aware of. We make available on our website a location where landlords can go in and post units that are available. So it's a community resource. It's out there. We can talk about that at the end of this again. Number one, these are typically individuals who will take some type of rental assistance, Section 8 being the dominant one, or they're more affordable. So that's one resource. 2, the City of Thousand Oaks, through actually this group, through the Council on Aging, through their housing committee, is preparing and working on a housing document that is listing housing opportunities within this particular community. Elise, you've been part of that, and they can access that. They can probably call my office or access that on the website for a draft. It's not finalized, but that's a second thing. As far as receiving some type of subsidized assistance, Section 8, it's a many-year process. The list is closed today for every agency that I'm aware of in Ventura County because all of our lists are excessive. Our Section 8 waiting list today for senior citizens alone is almost 700 specific families. And my turnover rate on 2,400 units is about 1%. So 24 units a year. I mean, you can do the math, obviously. We just recently opened up the list, received almost 400 applications in 4 days, and most of those will qualify for assistance. We're also leasing up a little bit right now. It's just a unique time. But you should check, quite honestly. You need to call. You should check with every housing authority in Ventura County. You should call every one of them and say, is your waiting list open? Where am I on the list? What do you have? When will it be open? I need a place. Help me. Because we do that. We have, again, there are cards that I put on the back or will be available that says effectively housing announcements by emails, and we will put out blast emails to anybody who's interested as soon as units become available, properties become available, anything along that line. But unfortunately, it's a slow process. And the only way that you're going to get around that is to make more units available, whether they be senior mobile homes, whether they be residentials, whether it be new construction, whether it be rehabilitation, conversion, whether it be granny flats. I mean, we have a provision in this area for granny flats. Needs to be adjusted, but we need to adjust that. But there are things like that can be done also. And every community that I work in, and recognize that I work in every community in Ventura County today, it's the same situation. Okay?
Yes, I want to go to the other side. I want to address this to you again, Doug. The other side of how would somebody, if they own property, qualify that property to, or how would they make it available for a Section 8 tenant?
Well, they contact the area housing authority. They can do that phone, email, whatever. But typically a landlord, a homeowner will call in and say, I'd like to make my unit available. Great, what it is, what's the size, how much is the rent, what are the qualifications. We typically send them a package of information that says, as a landlord, these are your responsibilities. Safe, sanitary, decent, has to meet inspection standards. Every unit that we provide rental assistance on must pass what is called HQS, Housing Quality Standards. If it fails, you don't get the money. That's just the way it is. Every resident that we go through, they have to qualify every year. And much like what we talk about from a legal perspective, it's a very invasive process because we will be sitting down and looking at your finances to see what you can and what you cannot afford. Mm-hmm. But the landlords go through, and a three-party agreement ultimately is entered into, one between the landlord and the tenant, one between the tenant and the area housing authority, and one between the landlord and the area housing authority. And they all are legally binding, and, various times we wind up with the horror stories that we hear about, and other times we hear about the wonderful programs that work. We have landlords that have participated in the Section 8 program since the day it opened. I think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
And I'd like to address this to anybody in the room who may own property or anybody who knows somebody who may own property. My company manages over 2,000 properties in the greater Los Angeles area. We accept Section 8 on every single property, and it's the greatest program since sliced bread, possibly. So thank you, Doug. So if anybody does have that opportunity, contact Doug and see if you can get. It's a great program, and it really helps a lot of people. I'm going to go back over to find out a little bit about the legal aspects of some of these things. So, Kathleen, I'm going to put you back on the hot seat if you don't mind. You talked about what abuses may happen in seniors having to do with housing and with their family members. Do you see any outside influences, people coming in from outside that may be attracted to seniors or targeting seniors for fraud?
Definitely. I mean,
abuse?
most of the cases I have do involve caregivers or family members, but we do have several stranger cases where someone, kind of cold knocked on the door, and this trusting individual, they said, "I want to fix your car for you. I can do your plumbing for you," and the senior has allowed them in, paid them cash, and then while they're in there, they've taken information that they've used later on to financially abuse them, take their credit cards, checks, things of that nature. I did bring today, and there's some crime prevention handbook, and I didn't anticipate so many people coming here. I think I brought 30 or 40 copies, but I will make them available for anyone that wants them. There are tips in here that you can go over and read to help protect yourself from others. We have recently in Ventura County had some contractor scams. These are individuals who are paying a contractor with a legitimate number to use that number, and they'll come to your home. They'll appear to be legitimate, give you an estimate for work, maybe say $3,000 to do some drywall work. Well, pretty soon they've done the $3,000, and now, you need some more work done. And they'll rack up the bill to $25,000, $30,000 before the senior even realizes it. Maybe they didn't read the paperwork correctly. Maybe they didn't see the numbers. They didn't have their glasses on, and they've signed something that they shouldn't. And then what happens is I call them crooks, the crooks will file a mechanics lien on the home and then take you to court. And we've had one case where the elder lost his home because of the contractor went in, he signed papers, he didn't really realize it, they racked up debts, they filed a mechanics lien when he didn't pay, went to court and took the house away from them. So it's always good to have a second person with you or a second person you trust go over the contract. Certainly don't agree to anything. If someone has called you or someone has knocked on your door, I wouldn't have anything to do with it. If you reach out and contact someone to get references, it's a different story. But these cold calls and cold knocking on doors are always typically trouble. I will say we do have a consumer division, at a consumer helper division at the district attorney's office, and you can come to our office at any time and ask to speak to Robin Estes, and she can look contractors up for you. She can find out if there's been any problems with contractors in the past that we have recorded in our computer, and give you some insight before you sign any contracts.
Thank you. I do have to tell you a little story. My mother-in-law gave away the water heater one day to a gentleman who knocked on the door and said he was there to get the water heater, and she showed him where it was, and off went the water heater. It does feel a little bit like she's a magnet for some people because of painters and so forth, but we've been dealing with it fairly well. I want to ask you something, though. You just mentioned the consumer protection at the DA's office, the district attorney's office. I think we have one of the most active district attorneys that I've ever heard of, with all the different fraud and so forth. Is there a specific website people could go to get information across the board?
The district attorney does have a website, and off the top of my head, I don't know exactly what it is.
Okay.
But if you Google the Ventura County District Attorney's Office, it will pop up, and it gives you all kinds of information about each of our different units. I know, for instance, our DA has especially put a lot of effort into the elder abuse unit. He got a grant in 2004 that started the unit, but that only lasted a year or two, and he realized the importance of this area of law. So he has been funding a senior deputy district attorney. I have 2 district attorney investigators and an advocate, a victim advocate that only deals with seniors. And that's been going on now for 10 years.
Thank you very much. Helen, I know you've been a realtor for quite a while, and I'm trying to get away from all the abuse side of things. The positive side of things, what do you see that's positive about the community for people who want to maybe move here as a senior from outside of the area?
I think Conejo Valley area is terrific. I moved here 10 years ago, but I've had that dream for about 40 years. Finally, to live and work in the Conejo Valley, I think, is terrific. We have a lot of programs for seniors. We have lots of parks. We have lots of activities. The weather is great. We of course need more senior housing. Things like the lake is great just to walk around. I mean, I think there's so many activities. I should be on the Chamber of Commerce here.
Well, you're a realtor, so you sort of are.
Yeah.
You definitely interact with the general populace.
The prices are a little bit higher than in some of the surrounding areas in Thousand Oaks and Westlake, but again, it goes with the demand and the activities too. I think just the fact that I feel like I'm in a resort myself, or almost on vacation, just being here around the lake and the parks and the concerts, and there's a lot of things, and it isn't even just for seniors, it's for families. I don't think seniors want to be isolated. I think they enjoy living with within the normal family community, singles, kids, and older people as well. I don't think they want to just live by themselves in their own little group. Certain situations with senior housing, perhaps, but not as far as a community.
That's such a great point, that it is a mixed community. I'm not sure 12% are seniors in the county. Is that the same in the city?
No.
Nope. It's much higher in the city. Thanks. Ms. Silverman? Is that? Silverberg. I'm so sorry. Yeah, okay. They'll fill in the void. So we're kind of covered on a lot of different aspects of what's going on in the housing in the Conejo Valley and in Thousand Oaks. But I want to give everybody an opportunity for anything they felt like adding, and then possibly maybe the council members might have, or commissioners might have questions. But Doug, you want to start on anything that we didn't cover you think we should cover?
Well, I think we have covered a great deal of that information. However, the balanced community concept is very important. We have seen on a regular basis that our senior citizens and our families seem to do better when there is some balance. A lot of people like to live in the community where you have births and you have deaths. You want to see the young people running up and down the street screaming and yelling like they should be doing. You don't want them hassling you all the time. But by the same token, you want to know that this is going on, and they need the ability to see that seniors are out there and learn respect. and to help, etc. Fortunately, and I live in a community that's like that, where I live right now. I've been in this community since 1963, and we see a lot of that going on. Even though many of our senior housing units are, as you identified, senior housing next to family units, etc. But the ability to share within the community is what makes us strong. And that's critical for us. That's why we have this Council on Aging, working with the youth councils, working with the rest of the people here. Thanks, Peter.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Debbie, anything we didn't cover? I think you should come back and tell us a little bit more about the reverse mortgage concept, because I think that's important to reiterate, if you don't mind.
Well, about the concept of reverse, again, it's tapping into equity, and I would love to do that offline. If anybody has questions, I would love to do that away from this. But I think one of the things so I think that there is some senior housing ability to build senior housing more affordable, that seniors can live in the community, in the Conejo. I'm looking for some senior housing just as I'm getting ready to retire and thinking, okay, what do I want to do? So I would strongly encourage that. But using the reverse mortgage as a purchase, in a purchase transaction, I think is huge. And it's a big opportunity for a lot of people to consider. We live in a safe environment. I think that's one thing that we didn't talk about. We have a very safe community here, and that's key. That's huge. So we have other resources as well. I have to put a plug in for Senior Concerns because they do an excellent job in the community helping seniors figure out what's the next step or where do I go. So if somebody's looking for some referral sources, seniorconcerns.org, or looking them up and giving them a call, they're an amazing organization that can help seniors.
My apology, Debbie. I should have brought up and had you talk more about the purchase concept of the reverse mortgage. Would you mind doing that? Because usually we just think of the reverse mortgage as the equity you built in an existing house, but it's possible to use it in a purchase. Would you mind addressing that?
Well, so in a purchase situation, again, we'll go back to that $500,000, 50% equity. Somebody buying a house, say maybe they're selling a $500,000 house, and they don't have a mortgage on it. So they walk away with $500,000 minus the cost. Buy something smaller, closer to a family member, smaller unit, single story, all of those things, maybe for $300,000, and put down roughly 50%. So call it $150,000. So they sell a $500,000 house, put $150,000 down on a new home that's senior appropriate, and they could keep then that other $350,000 to invest and to use as to live on as a reserve, and then not have a mortgage payment in their new house and live there, pay their taxes and their insurance as long as they live. Does that help?
I think that's a great concept, and again, my apologies. I think people need to know about those kind of programs, and I really appreciate that you did bring that up, Debbie.
Well, I will put a plug in here because I do offer CE classes for realtors.
Oh, yeah. She's very, very well educated and helping to educate the rest of us in our real estate community. Thank you. Helen, I'm going to ask you a little bit more about the community, too, and then you can wrap up for anything I might have missed. But you see the whole picture of the Conejo Valley. What do you see?
Well, I see a real lack of appropriate housing for seniors. We have a number of clients we're looking for that they want single story. Even if price isn't an issue, it's still hard to find single stories. I mean, even up to $800, $850, which is quite a nice house, but it's very hard to find single stories. I think perhaps working with builders, although there's not a lot of building going on here, but maybe in some of the other outlying areas of the county, to require, as I think Thousand Oaks has of some builders, of building, to have certain percentage of the product be single story, or at least not just a bedroom down, but a master bedroom down, so that they could still have maybe lofts or kids' rooms upstairs. But I think a master bedroom down would be very appropriate. Sometimes houses with two master bedrooms, one up and one down, so that they can live in a sort of a shared multi-generational housing situation. And I would suggest that anything with multifamily have a connector through elevators, and that would work for not only seniors but disabled people as well. I just think that would be a great asset for the area.
Great, thank you very much. And it's a great honor to have you, Kathleen O'Brien, who's she's Senior Deputy District Attorney in Elder Abuse. Is there anything that you'd like to add, anything we missed?
Well, I just hate to be the sad sack in the group all the time. But I wanted to bring something up. It doesn't necessarily have to do with housing, but a colleague just yesterday made me aware of a new scam that's been reported to our office, and I want to bring to your attention. People are receiving phone calls from people purporting to be from the IRS. And telling the person who answers the phone that they owe more money and they need to send a check. And they seem to have a lot of information about that person that would make you think they were legitimate. Well, this colleague had called the IRS. The IRS will never call you, ever, ever, ever. So someone has seemed to be able to hack into their computer and get personal information. So if you get that kind of phone call, just hang up and report it to your local police department.
Well, thank you. Yes, I wouldn't want to hear from the IRS anyway, and probably would hang up then just in spite. Thank you very much, panel. I really appreciate it. Does any of the commissioners have any questions for the panel members? Oh, we do. Okay, I'll start over here. Harry?
Yes, I have a question in regards to reverse mortgages. If a person or a couple living on Social Security find themselves strapped for cash and have to sell their house or take out a reverse mortgage, wouldn't it be better for a person or persons in that circumstance to sell their home, take the profits, and rent one apartment for about $1,200 a month? If they cleared $250,000 after the sale of their home, that would give them about 18 years at $1,200 a month in an apartment with nothing to pay, no expenses other than their utilities, rather than having a reverse mortgage and have the charges build up against them until the day that they leave their premises and it comes due.
That's a really good question, and probably one that is better posed to a financial advisor who knows the big picture. My concern with renting is rents go up, and you have no control. If it's your house, you have control. So I would say reverse mortgages are really intended for individuals, and every individual situation is different, and so it's not. The big picture needs to be looked at. It has to be done holistically. Thank you.
You're welcome.
There are some other commissioners yes, I can't see that far, so.
That's okay. Thank you very much. Who is it who spoke? Was it you? Okay. There have been several features on national magazine television programs about seniors sharing homes, and it's wonderful. You have the social aspect of it. You have company. You have someone to help you cook, and for safety reasons, and of course sharing the expenses. But something like this is very frightening to me. I don't know who made these cards. There's no name on it. Okay, there should be a disclaimer on here, Samp Housing, about Samp. Okay, but secondly, are there, without mentioning any names of businesses, are there businesses who do this type of thing that will run background checks at both ends? And if there are those businesses, let's be sure that they're listed on the Conejo Connections website so that everybody has access to them. Thank you.
Oh, yes, Commissioner.
Yeah, I've heard the term senior friendly and senior appropriate used as applied to housing, and I'm interested in what attributes of housing that the panel would think are essential for that designation, and what ones would be highly desired for that designation.
Peter, I'll start with that, okay?
Please do.
I think when we look at this, we're talking about Units that have reduced trip hazards, falls are one of the biggest issues that we deal with. Wider hallways, wider doors, perhaps in many cases wheelchair accessible or walker accessible. You're looking for carpet like what's in this room. It needs to be tight to the floor. We don't want to shag, something that's easy to trip over. You avoid things like sharp corners many times on your items. In many cases, we look for the sockets, the wall sockets, to be a little higher because bending over can be a problem. Also, the cabinets many times are coming down a little lower so that you don't have to reach quite as high along that. It's been mentioned many times flat, if you will, or if it's raised, there needs to be a way for somebody to have minimal stepping. As you get older, again, walkers, wheelchairs, canes, anything along this line. You can build or you can have multifamily units that are stacked, and then you need an elevator. You've got to have an elevator that gets up, and then again, wide hallways going down. Our experience indicates, and I would say many mansions probably has seen the same thing, wider hallways with community aspects in buildings that are multifamily. We want to have a spot where our senior citizens, should they desire it, can go down and visit and be with other people. And should they desire to sit in their particular unit and watch the trees and, sit down on the veranda with their margarita, great. So does that help? Okay. Oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot all about that. The whole bathroom arrangement, showers, roll-ins many times, tubs that are something that you're not going to slip and fall. I mean, think slip and fall, okay? Yeah, grab bars all over the place.
Thank you, Doug. Anybody else want to comment on that question on the panel? No? Okay. Yes, Council or Commissioner.
Too relaxed.
He's retiring.
Very retiring. Do you offer a counseling service when a person comes into your facility to discuss their options from the standpoint of possibly selling a home?
No. Okay. That's not something that we deal with. That's beyond the purview of what the Area Housing Authority would be dealing with. Okay.
Any other questions from the commissioners? I know somebody had passed a note up to you, and it's up to your discretion whether you wanted to have that question answered.
I hope I get this right. Why are home builders allowed to only build two-story homes in their area? Even if the cost is higher, single-story housing are in more demand, especially for senior citizens.
Oh, you want me? We both can answer that question. I'll go first. Part of it's a zoning issue. It started out many, many years ago when the idea was to bring communities closer together. You build higher, you get more units on the on property, and by doing that, you reduce the cost. Okay, and many of those zoning restrictions are still in effect today. Secondly, it's a cost factor. It's less expensive to build up than it is to build out.
Yes, similarly, I worked for a builder developer, and at that time, this is about 12 years ago, I understood that in Thousand Oaks that they did require 25% of their building to be single-story. Or it could be single-story with the loft, and that way it was a two-story, but it was only the loft that was upstairs. When you have a certain size of a property and then you build a single-story, it means a smaller house and then a smaller yard as well. So it's much more expensive to build a single-story. That's really why they go up. But if they could maybe make it that at least a master bedroom was down, that might solve a lot of the problem.
I think you need to remember that Thousand Oaks is, in many ways, a community that's in transition along this line. We started out as an extremely young community, and people moved in here with young families. We didn't have a lot of our, we didn't have those of us that are getting older. So as we gentrify, as we get older, et cetera, we're now beginning to reap the benefits of that. So,
I think we also. I think we also we also get the benefit of the open space. I'm not trying to justify the two stories, but with that condensing of the units, and if you work for a developer or builder and they go before the city or the planning commission, there are requirements to allow for the open space that we do get to enjoy in the Conejo Valley. There were some questions that were presented to the commissioners. It's their discretion if they want us to present them to the panel or if they want to move on. I understand. Okay. So I gave that to the commissioners. We can address any questions afterwards. I want to thank the commissioners for allowing us to do this presentation. I want to thank the City of Thousand Oaks and all the panelists individually. I appreciate your being here, taking time from your busy work days. My name is Peter Greer. I am a realtor. I'm very proud of that. I also want to thank the Conejo Valley Association of Realtors, Don Phillips especially, for putting this group together for the presentation. Thanks again.
Yes, my thanks to the panelists and Don for putting this together. Thank you again. All right, what did we learn today? Well, we've learned a lot about senior living and what we're going to do about it. A couple other things. The website, I'd certainly encourage everybody to look at the website at least once a week just to get an idea what's going on in the community, see what other folks are doing, what their interests are. We've got a butterfly release on 7/12. Transit workshop, thank you, on 7/23. And then tomorrow, come on out and enjoy the Senior of the Year. Come out and once again, as I said maybe earlier, become stimulated. What these folks have done in our community for so many years, and give them your support, not just to continue, but to thank them for what they have done in the past. Okay? Anything else, folks? Well, before I bring down my rain, I did want to thank my fellow commissioners here for being so supportive and helpful. The other thing is that I've learned since being with the Council on Aging is I was in technical sales and had very little dealing with women, quite honestly. And I've been, starting off with my wife, I've been directed, reconstructed in the way I deal with them. But now I know where all the Phi Beta Kappas, the salutatorians, the valedictorians are. Thank you, ladies. Thank you. We love you. We're adjourned.